set goals, have expectations. Everyone, they're crystal clear. Everyone knows what they are. And then you get out of their way and you let them do. And if they're not doing, then that becomes pretty abundantly clear at some point. And then you look at, okay, well, why aren't they becoming, why aren't you hitting your metrics? What can we do to help you hit those metrics? What kind of support can I give you to help meet those metrics? And then sometimes there's just people that have great interviews and aren't, don't do the work.
Welcome to the Abundant Vision Fundraising Podcast. Whether you are a seasoned professional or a first-time fundraiser, we have the advice you need to take your next step toward major gift mastery. I'm your host, Tom Dauber, President of Abundant Vision Philanthropic Consulting. In our last episode, Jim Mahoney, Vice President of Advancement at Adrian College, shared with us about some of his career highlights, as well as some tips for how nonprofit executives can partner effectively with their Chief Development Officer. In our fourth and final segment with Jim, he's going to walk us through some helpful advice on being a manager in the fundraising world. So you've been both a frontline fundraiser, you still are, but also a manager of fundraisers. How did leading other fundraisers affect your understanding of the profession? Is there anything you've learned along the way that you wish you knew earlier in your career?
Yeah, I've had a few different major gift officers work for me here at Adrian that, I wouldn't consider myself a good manager, quite honestly. Unfortunately, Tom, when you worked with me at OSU, the College of Dentistry, I think I was still trying to figure out my own self there. But when I came to Adrian, and particularly when I was promoted to VP and I had a whole team reporting to me, the one thing that I've just really figured out is, you hire people who are going to be good members of your team.
Yes. Who
have potential. You can teach fundraising, but you can't teach really work ethic and things like that. So you hire those type of people. You help them get comfortable in the skill set and either in the strategy, focus, discipline kind of areas of doing this type of work. And then you get out of their way and you let them go and do. Yeah. And, the thing that I've figured out here at Adrian over the last 18 years is, my door's always open unless I'm doing a podcast or, talking on the phone or meeting, right?
Right.
And so the team knows, like, if they have a question about a donor, if they have a question about whatever, they can come and talk to me. And I have an open door policy. And, same thing for like kind of one-on-one meetings. I don't schedule one-on-one meetings with my team unless they want one-on-one meetings. And so now they all do, and that's fine. But if they don't, then my thinking is, or if they cancel, which they're allowed to do, then I think to myself, okay, well, then they know what the expectations are. They know what the goals are, and they're just doing. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm going to get out of their way and I'm going to let them do. And I don't micromanage that part of it because, I feel like that just, if I'm always darkening a doorway or standing there like, okay, what are you doing? How are you spending your time? It just frazzles people to the point of, I don't know, not being productive, I guess. Yeah. So I'd rather just, again, set goals, have expectations. Everyone, they're crystal clear. Everyone knows what they are. And then you get out of their way and you let them do. And if they're not doing, then that becomes pretty abundantly clear at some point. And then you look at, okay, well, why aren't they becoming, why aren't you hitting your metrics? What can we do to help you hit those metrics? What kind of support can I give you to help meet those metrics? And then sometimes there's just people that have great interviews and aren't, don't do the work.
Well, right.
you know,
Right.
and that's just life. And, you know, whatever, the Godfather line, it's not personal, it's business, and so, and sometimes it's not, sometimes it's not personal. But it's like, we've got a job to do here. And again, as long as my team feels like the goals that we set and the expectations that we have are crystal clear and everyone's on board with them, then get out of their way and let them do. And I don't think I was quite there at the OSU College of Dentistry with you and Rachel and others. But I've kind of just figured that out along the line. And I think that's what kind of being a good manager is too, is, you kind of, you learn from your mistakes. You learn from those, opportunities and challenges that you have. And then you're kind of always evolving. And I think, like being flexible as far as how do you set up an appointment with a donor, prospect, constituent, alum, whomever. You
Right.
also, as a manager, I need to be flexible because not every colleague, every coworker might react differently to something else. So
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, you didn't intend it this way, but you definitely got out of my way. Because I inherited, I think, at least half of your portfolio, and it worked out great. I mean, it wasn't for you, I don't think I would have moved into major gift fundraising in Northwest Ohio, quite as quickly as I got to. So thank you.
my pleasure, Tom.
My goodness. I appreciate each and every one of you who listen to this podcast. Thank you for taking 20 minutes plus or minus out of your week to join me on the journey toward major gift mastery. We do this podcast each week to help fundraisers who may not have easy access to the stories and advice of other fundraisers, and even for nonprofit leaders who are struggling to learn about how to manage a fundraising process that they may know very little about. The best way to help more people benefit from this resource is for you to review this podcast and even share it on social media. So if you like this podcast and feel as if it's been of help to you, please take a few minutes to give it 5 stars on your podcast provider and share the link on your social media streams. This will help ensure that the people who need to hear this advice are more likely to find it. What would you say to established major gift officers, maybe mid-career folks looking to make that move? What should their focus be?
Well, first I would say, be ready, because you're about to be in a whole bunch of more meetings than you've ever been part of it before.
Isn't that the truth?
And so, that was kind of the big shocker for me, even though I kind of saw it with the vice president when I was the director. But until you live it and you really see how your calendar shapes up, I mean, there's a whole day a week that is just wrapped up in college senior team or other management team meetings that I have. And you can get really bogged down on that. And especially the more success you have and the more trusted you become as a colleague, the more colleagues want you to be part of other meetings. And it can be really easy to just say yes and be part of a bunch of things. And then it's like, oh, wait a minute, I'm a fundraiser. I'm a frontline fundraiser still. And I got to get out and, raise some money. And so, be that trusted colleague, be that trusted peer, but really be focused on your portfolio, really be focused on advancing that portfolio, be strategic with your time, as far as, okay, well, again, for me, I know Tuesdays are a really meeting heavy day for me. So the odds that I'm going to really get out and see someone on a Tuesday are probably slim to none. So, my Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays tend to be more heavily development trips than Mondays, Tuesdays. But that's just for me. And so, be disciplined on your calendar. Hold time that you want to be held for development type of operations. And that could be stewardship plans, thank you notes, if you're writing your own proposals, if it's, If you're a grant writer too, spending time to like researching and writing grants, really just be disciplined in your approach during that week, during a week, and hold time for yourself. And if you're planning out good and you get yourself a little bit extra time here or there, more power to you. But really, really just hold yourself accountable for what your week is going to be like.
Yeah, I think that accountability, writing your goals down and really tracking how you're making progress is a key part of success, Jim. I couldn't agree
Absolutely.
more. In fact, one of my big things is whiteboards. I
Yeah.
have to have whiteboards, right? And I think that might have been something I learned at the dental school. Really, was because to your point, there's always something that could distract you,
Always.
you know, and there come these lulls in your day when you're thinking, oh, what should I be doing right now? And if I can keep my goal setting asks or the biggest, most important things I have to do for the year up on the wall somewhere, even if it's in code, because you don't want to put a donor's name on your whiteboard, right? It reminds me in that moment, I should write a note, or I should do something to help move that thing forward. But that's how I've always kept myself accountable.
Yeah, and again, going back to what I said before, not being a super Google Drive person or whatever. I've got sticky notes all over the place in my office, but they strategically remind me of certain things that I need to do or keep at top of mind. And so it works for me. It might not
Yes.
work for everybody else, but you have to do what's going to work for you in this kind of crazy world that we live in. Just to go back one thing too that I forgot
Please.
to say, if that's all right,
Yeah.
about new professionals in this, or you know the thing I think is really important. It's easier said than done. Is don't don't take a no personally, and don't when you make an ask, and as long as you're putting out an ask that is both meaningful and significant for that person, you know, and if they say no, no doesn't mean, they don't like Tom Dauber or Jim Mahoney or whomever. There's got to be so many rights that happen for us to get to that yes.
Yeah.
And I think we can be dissuaded or kind of bummed out or whatever if you get a bunch of no's, and that's okay. I mean, no could lead to yes for sure. and
That's right.
and unless they totally close the door on you, and if that's the case, then you probably did your cultivation and your research on this person maybe not as well as we probably should have. But if you get to that ask, and they're just like, no, I just can't do that right now, that's okay. You regroup, you keep them as part of your portfolio, provided that they're still wanting to be there. But you refocus what that ask could be. So just don't take it personal.
Well, especially in higher ed. I mean, those can be very long-term institutional relationships. I think of a relationship you had that I didn't inherit it directly because there was a feeling that this uh, doctor would, maybe have a big estate gift for the college. And so it went from you and it went to your successor, Colleen Garland. And Colleen worked at it for a while, a
Mm,
number of years. And then I think finally she decided, hey, I got other fish to fry. Don't have time to wait on this. And so I was a steward of that relationship for probably 2 to 3 years.
mm,
And in that second year, this particular dentist had a health issue that really woke them up to the fact that, hey, I better do some things while I have time left. And we got a wonderful gift out of it, and it wasn't because I was a better fundraiser than you or Colleen. It was really just the donor had to go through some things to get to the point where they were ready to make that gift.
yeah.
And so, I mean, you're right. It really isn't an issue of, ooh, I did the right thing or the wrong thing half the time. It's really just staying with that donor as they develop psychologically. I think I've got an uncle that went through that process, and he's on a foundation board at at a pretty large public university now, and he always had the ability to give generously, but it wasn't until he started to see what his peers were doing, he kind of developed psychologically, like, oh, I can give like that. And so, when you steward that relationship and you keep them engaged and let them see, what's normative giving at your institution. Yeah, sometimes, I mean, if they're philanthropically minded, they can really come around. Well, Jim, you have been so generous with your time with us today. I'm so grateful, not just for hiring me in at OSU, but for being willing to be a guest on my podcast. Thanks so much. And I hope things continue to go well for you up there at Adrian.
Well, thanks, Tom. I think I appreciate you reaching out to me. I appreciate our friendship and, for a long time now. And, I think these podcasts, this type of work that you're doing is very beneficial for people like us in this field. And I think it's always great for us to stay interconnected. And if what I said today and if what you're saying in your conversation you're having helps one other individual or a fundraiser at a nonprofit, big institution, doesn't matter. I hope they can find one little nugget that helps them. So I appreciate it.
I'm sure they will. Hey, thank you, Jim.
Have a great day, Tom. Thanks so much.
Yep. As always, I'm your host, Tom Dauber. Thank you for joining me as we journey together toward major gift mastery on the Abundant Vision Fundraising Podcast.